have released an anonymous op-ed, which is very rare for them to do, that's supposedly from an insider, a senior official in the Trump campaign. Now, as always, we should take this with a grain of salt because it is anonymous, so we don't know if it's true or not. But I'm going to do the video assuming that it is true, or there is at least some truth to this. This is a person who is basically admitting to sabotaging Trump's administration as someone who's working and pretending to be on Trump's side, but secretly going behind with what they claim is other senior officials undermining Trump's agenda. They cite things specifically like, oh, he tries to be buddies with Russia and North Korea, but he's against our allies around the globe, like in NATO and things like this. What this is an admission that the deep state is real. That's exactly what it is. You can tell by the way it's written. They're doing things like praising John McCain in the article. They're discussing the importance of like foreign policy normalcy, of basically going along to get along like we have been doing for years. They don't want peace with Russia. They don't want peace with North Korea. You've been seeing articles that discuss how Trump's people are actually sabotaging his North Korea peace talks, and North Korea knows it at this point, that these are people around him that want conflict. They don't want a world of peace. These deep state people make their money and make their influence off of these never-ending sabotage wars, regime change wars, things like Iraq, Libya, Syria. Notice that the only time the media has ever really praised Trump on both sides is when he did bomb Syria, which is basically what I feel is the worst thing he's done in his presidency. These people want conflict and want war. And now we're getting an admission that not only is the media almost entirely against Trump, not only are establishment politicians on both sides completely against Trump. I mean, when's the last time you saw a president with people in his own party that were so against him? But we still see that with Republicans, people like Jeff Flake, other Republicans that are never Trumpers, right? Not only are those groups against him, but people in his own administration are actively working against him. That's right, America. What you vote on doesn't matter, because there are deep state people that will have their agenda come hell or high water. Now, the article says the reason that this saboteur gives for working against Trump is his amorality, because apparently he's just not a moral person. This is absolute garbage. You mean that it was moral for them to go along with Bush in the Iraq War? No one stood up and said anything there. It was a moral stance for Obama to help overthrow Libya and all the bombs that he dropped in countries he tried to overthrow. That was moral behavior. But this draws the line. Why? Because Trump says offensive words and tweets. Absolutely ridiculous. And I've been saying for months now that what's going to happen is you're going to find out with this FBI investigation and all the corruption that's going around it about how they're wiretapping people that were at least at one point in Trump's campaign, and they're sending spies, and that they're desperately trying to find anything, any crime whatsoever, even if it's not connected to Russia collusion, that they'll be able to justify their investigation. They just want to say, sure, we may cut some corners, everything might not have been on the up and up as much as the American people would like, but we knew Trump was a bad person. We knew he was evil. Well, here you go. The reaction I've seen from people already on this article is like, well, Trump's the mad king. He's an immoral person. We need patriots inside to usurp the will of the American people who elected this president and do what they think's right for the country. And that's exactly the same reaction that the FBI is going to have. People like James Comey also felt like they knew better than the American people and they needed to keep this guy out of office. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's nothing short of sabotage of this presidency, which was voted on legitimately by the American people. This should worry everyone. Imagine Bernie Sanders gets elected, or some other progressive person, Octavio Cortez, right? They get elected and they're like, we don't want any more wars. We don't want to do this. Well, noble patriots within the deep state and her administration step up and continue to sabotage peace talks because we need normalcy, and these conflicts aren't good for the establishment of the United States political system. It is ridiculous. This is what liberals used to fight against, and now you see them cheering for it. These same people that lied us into the Iraq War, these people on the left are now cheering for it because they're buying this argument that somehow Trump's this super mad king that we need to overthrow. This is absolutely ridiculous, and if this article is true, I hope there's investigations. Whoever this person is outed, and if they've committed crimes, they should be charged with them. But keep in mind, when you talk about how, look at what Trump's accomplished already. There's tons of things he's done that I'm not a big fan of, particularly his rhetoric that he uses. But the economy's doing pretty well. I think he's had foreign policy gains. I don't want to see a conflict with Russia, unlike the Party of Peace, the Democrats, that even when Hillary ran, she wanted a no-fly zone over Syria that would have led to a conflict with Russia. Instead, they want to keep arming Al-Qaeda and al-Nusra, who are supposedly our mortal enemies, to fight Assad and the Russians in those countries. It's absolute insanity. this has been going on for years. We've been arming these terrorists. We've been serving proxy wars to overthrow regimes we don't like. And even though Trump's not perfect in this regard, at least he's someone who had an open mind about possibly like, well, why are we doing this? Shouldn't we be working with Russia? Shouldn't we be working with anyone who's willing to fight Islamic terrorism? But no, instead, we see that the media has to clamor against that. The so-called media people that are left-wing, they can't get enough of this war, even though they're ashamed they were lied. They didn't do their jobs during the Iraq war, right? Oh, our bad. Sorry, we messed that one up. Yeah, we went along with the lie of WMDs. But this time, trust us, we need this conflict in Syria. We need to have these proxy wars going against Russia at all times. We should praise Trump anytime he does anything against Russia. But other than that, we hate him tenfold. We'll do anything we can to disrupt the man because, God forbid, he trip over himself and stop the deep state and these never-ending regime change wars and all the other globalist agenda that they have. So I don't know if you could tell, but the story's just a little aggravating to me, and the people's reaction to it, that's just like, yeah, this is a great thing. We do want unelected officials sabotaging the elected president of the United States. It's absurd, and be careful what you wish for, as I've been saying all along. Look, there are progressives on the left that hate Trump that have also been saying this. People like Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald, who I don't agree with on a lot of things, right? And they certainly dislike Trump, but they understand the danger of cheering for these intel communities and the deep state, and for them to break laws or try to usurp power from Trump. They understand what that means, because when they get someone in there who they think's progressive, they know that that will also be seen as an anti-establishment, and the exact same things will happen to them. You don't believe me? What happened to Bernie Sanders? Ask yourself that. Oh yeah, the Democratic primary was stolen from him, and nary a peep from the Democrats now, right? On the beat goes on, right? And it just proves the absurdity of what's going on here. So I urge everyone to read this story. Think about the implications. Even if you hate Trump, think about the implications of what this is saying. The article, my favorite line was, "We're not talking about a deep state." What was the line they used? It's not a deep state. It's a consistent state or a steady state or something to that effect. This is the deep state. They've been saying the entire time Trump's been railing against the so-called deep state, and his supporters have been railing against the deep state. They were saying, no, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And now the narrative's changing, like, well, okay, it kind of exists, but it's a good thing. It is not a good thing. It's usurpation of the American will and what the election was, and it should frighten everyone regardless of your political party.